Hey, are you Adam Graham?
The very same. And this is my old-time radio snack wagon.
Welcome to the old-time radio snack wagon, where we serve up a bite-sized portion of old-time radio. And now, here's your snack wagon host, Adam Graham.
Welcome to the old-time radio snack wagon. March is Women's History Month, and over at the Amazing World of Radio, one of my other podcasts, I'm featuring women's stories from the golden age of radio in half-hour episodes every Wednesday during the month of March. We're not going to dedicate all of March on the snack wagon to serving up these stories, but I do think serving up a snack or two honoring a great woman would be well worthwhile. And so we're bringing you an episode of Treasury Salute. Treasury Salute was one of many series released by the Treasury Department in support of various war loans. And it mixed biographies with music as an appeal. Initially, the series focused on prominent Americans of the past like Mark Twain, but really hit its stride when it began to feature American heroes of the war. Today's episode tells the story of Lieutenant Mary Roberts. The original air date, September 25th, 1944. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
This radio program comes to you thanks to millions of men in uniform. Americans fighting overseas.
The Treasury Salute. This is a program of the United States Treasury, your Treasury, reminding you for the fifth time in this war, you serve and save when you buy war bonds. And you salute with us a hero of this war, First Lieutenant Mary L. Roberts, Army Nurse Corps, winner of the Silver Star. And here is your narrator for this Treasury Salute, Santos Orga, with David Brookman and the Treasury Orchestra. Mr. Ortega.
Thank you. Here's a story of a girl from Dallas, Texas, a graduate of the Hillman Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama. A girl who decided that the greater measure of her duty lay in the Army's uniform, became a second lieutenant and then a first lieutenant, and is today a heroine, judged by any standards. Here is the story of Mary Roberts. In uniform, her story begins at Fort Sam Houston. There are way stations at Bizerte, where she helped take care of the wounded flown in from Sicily, and at Salerno, 2 or 3 weeks after the first guys hit the beach, and at Volturno, Venafro, and Casino. But they were all just way stations to a beachhead, a place called Anzio. First Lieutenant Mary Roberts was part of an operating team, and she learned what it means to work day and night. Oh, yes. Until you can't tell, don't care whether it's day or night. In an operating team, there's the surgeon, assistant, anesthetist, a couple of medics, enlisted men, and 2 or 3 nurses. Surgeon does most of the talking.
Clamps. Come on, quick.
Right here, sir. Sorry.
Lots of work. Lots of business in an operating tent. The Nazis try to force some tanks through to the south. That means plenty of customers.
Get Miss Parker to help you finish that lad's operation, Jack. Okay. What's awaiting us, Roberts?
2 more fracture cases, sir. 4 multiple wounds.
Wipe off my forehead, would you please? Thanks. Okay, anesthetist?
Want the next man in, sir?
Yep, we're waiting. Okay, Roberts?
Me? Sure, sir.
Sure. Mary Roberts was okay. Tired, sure, but okay. After you've worked as hard as the nurses on Anzio Beachhead work, you get so you don't care much about how much more work there is ahead of you. Maybe you wonder about how long it is theoretically possible to stay working. Academically, what is the limit on efficient concentration? And every time you hear a bomb explode in the distance, or a shell go off over your shoulder and not too far away, maybe you think, today, what's today? Monday? What's Mom doing back in Dallas? What time is it back there? Has she finished hanging up the wash? What's she thinking about? Has she written to me? Abruptly, her thoughts are wrenched back to the operating room.
Alcohol swabs.
You're going to begin on me now?
Looks like it, soldier.
Anesthesia.
Ether? Do I have to have ether? I hate ether.
Don't worry, buddy. This stuff we stick into your veins.
That's right. No bad smells in this war. Steady now.
Just count, soldier. With me. 1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
You got his emergency tag, Roberts?
Yes, sir.
Compound fracture, middle third, left tibia, wound debrided, packed with Vaseline gauze, morphine administered.
Mary Roberts watches the young faces that come in, one after another. The jaws set, the eyes screwed up with pain. 2 or 3 or 7 days' growth of beard. The young faces that have seen the front. Men that have crept up on machine gun nests or been too close to the path of a mortar shell. Mary thinks, remember this figure. 97.5%. Remember that number. 97.5% that these bodies will be healed. Only 2.5% will die. Wounded men lie on the 4 tables in the operating tent under anesthesia.
Getting closer.
They'll be shelling this tent in a moment.
Roberts.
Yes, sir.
Sutures.
Yes, sir.
My God.
Are you hurt, sir? Are you all right?
No, I'm all right.
A German shell, sir. Went right through the tent.
Thank God it didn't explode. Lower the patients to the floor. We'll continue operating.
Right away.
Medics, give us a hand with the patients.
What range do those guys think they got?
We can't tell how long they'll be shelling this area. Operations proceed.
Here, help me with this man.
Hey, Roberts, you and the other nurses, you better clear out.
There's a hot suggestion.
Hey, cover everybody. I mean it, Roberts. There's no sense in your...
Please don't make that an order, Captain. You'd embarrass every nurse here if you forced us to disobey orders. Let's get on with the operations.
Right. You were going to give me those sutures.
Nurses and doctors hard at work. Not in shining hospital white, too busy for that. Men and women crouching over the wounded bodies on the floor, working at high speed, at great concentration. While over them and beyond them and short of them and to each side find the mortars and big rifles of the Germans, far away on the heights.
How are your nurses?
They're okay. They'll be okay.
I think we can set the men back up on the tables.
When we're finished with this man...
Right. They're landing farther off.
Well, medic, take this man below to the evacuation tent.
And pick up some flashlights and kerosene lamps on your way back, medic. They may get our lights.
You've got a good operating crew here, Roberts.
The next soldier's ready, sir. Let's go.
Remind me to tell the CO about this.
Let's go, sir. Here's his emergency medical tag. Shrapnel wounds in chest and abdomen. Severe shock. Plasma administered. Treatment. Evacuation to base hospital as soon as possible.
Would you like to hear what Mary Roberts said, in her own words? About the day her operating tent was shelled, the Army made a record of a voice speaking to you from the Beachhead at Anzio itself. Here is the voice of First Lieutenant Mary Roberts speaking at Anzio.
When did you go to Anzio?
We started operations on the Beachhead on January 30th.
You were right under the enemy guns then, weren't you?
Yes, we had our first staff casualties there.
You're wearing the red, white, and blue ribbon of the Silver Star, given for gallantry in action. Was that as a result of your service in the Beachhead?
Yes, it was during a shelling soon after we arrived, in the early part of February.
What happened that day in the operating room tent?
Well, there were 3 or 4 patients on the table under anesthesia. A shell came right through the tent. We lowered the patients to the floor.
How long were you under fire?
I guess that the area was shelled for about half an hour or so. I really couldn't say definitely. We were too busy to keep track of time.
Didn't you lie down until the attack was over?
No, in a very short time we returned the patients to the table and started working. Everyone knew his or her job, exactly what to be done, and did it. That applies to both nurses and enlisted men. I feel that every one of them had a share in that silver star. I'm just the representative of the group when I wear it.
Could you name the men and women who were working under your direction at the time of these shells were whistling and bursting?
I certainly can. Among the nurses were Lieutenants Madge Teed of Mena, Arkansas, and Maxine Larkins of Albany, Missouri, both anesthetist. Joe Thompson of Sulphur, Oklahoma, Marjorie Gray of Killeen, Texas, Frances Raymond of Wichita Falls, Texas, Mary Heenahan of Kansas City, Missouri, and Loretta Bass of Casper, Wyoming. The enlisted men were T3rd Henry Sabisky of Detroit, Michigan, T5th Raymond Puff of Peekskill, New York, T5th Carl Pulaski of Chicago, Illinois, T5th Milton Silverman of Columbus, Ohio, and T5th Edward Skomersky of Schenectady, New York. Then there was a surgical auxiliary team with us, which deserves credit. That's an unassigned unit which moves around to any hospital most needing help. Its nurses were Lieutenant Bessie Mae Cox of Little Rock, Arkansas, Esther Collins of Chicago, Mary Randolph of Charlottesville, Maryland, Ruth Ponko of Ashley, Pennsylvania, and Frances Murneke of Duluth, Minnesota.
That was First Lieutenant Mary Roberts' own story, told by herself. But she's a bad reporter of her own heroism. We must listen to her superior officer.
The evacuation hospital at Anzio was heavily shelled by enemy artillery while Lieutenant Roberts was on duty as operating room chief nurse. The OR tent in which she was working was hit. The tent and its equipment were damaged, and 2 enlisted men were wounded by shell fragments from air bursts, which continued for approximately 30 minutes. Lieutenant Roberts exhibited exceptional coolness and outstanding leadership, reassured the nurses under her charge, and encouraged and urged them to greater efforts. Despite the impairment of facilities and the prolonged shelling, the vital work at 3 operating tables was continued under the inspiration of her conduct and example. The actions of Lieutenant Roberts in a critical situation assured the uninterrupted continuation of activities and contributed in large measure to the success of the operations. Her bravery and unfaltering devotion to duty and her complete disregard for her own welfare are in the best traditions of the military service and reflect the highest credit on herself and the Army Nurse Corps.
Well, that's a lot of official words. What it means is that a young woman from Texas has a lot of what it takes, and has in addition a silver star to show for it. And hers was the first awarded to a nurse in this war.
Yes, American women have what it takes, as Mary Roberts has so gallantly proved, and hundreds of others who have enlisted in the armed services. And American women right here at home must prove it, too. It's probably you women folk who manage the family budget, so it's up to you to buy more family war bonds. The goal of the 5th War Loan Drive is a steep one, $16 billion in all, $6 billion from individuals. For many of you, it will mean a sacrifice, giving up things you'd planned. But when you think what girls like Mary Roberts have given up for their country, surely you cannot say no. The 0 hour of the war is here. The history of the whole world is in the making. And many of your own loved ones are out there making it. So back up those boys and girls. Yes, back the attack. Buy double the war bonds you bought before. The United States Treasury thanks Santos Ortega and all the other distinguished artists who appeared on this specially transcribed program. The Treasury Salute was written by Peter Lyon and directed by Paul Stewart. The music was conducted by David Brookman. This is Barry Kroger speaking.
Welcome back. You can't overstate how critical the role of Army nurses were in the Second World War, and Roberts was a shining example of this. She left active duty as a captain in 1946, but would continue on as a nurse as well as an officer in the Army Reserve. He retired from the reserves as a lieutenant colonel and retired from nursing in 1972. He was featured in Tom Brokaw's book, The Greatest Generation, and through that book met a former patient in the later years of her life. While one could reasonably question the production decision to only partially dramatize her story, hearing the voice of an American heroine describing what happened to her is such a treasure that it's hard for me to find much fault with it.
It's time for me to close up the old snack wagon, but don't worry, we'll be back with another serving of old-time radio goodness before you know it. If you want to enjoy some of our longer form podcasts, you can feast away at my website at greatdetectives.net. Your emails are also welcome at adam@snackwagon.net.
The Old Time Radio Snack Wagon comes to you from Boise, Idaho. Your host is Adam Graham. Sound production is by Rhines Media, LLC. You can listen to past episodes of the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon as well as connect on social media at our website at snackwagon.net. Email suggestions for episodes to adam@snackwagon.net. This has been the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon.
Until next time, goodbye.